Hey, this is DJ Crash. Thank you for joining me for another special episode of Beyond Punk Conversations with Creatives. And I'm very pleased to have Carly Z from Ireland on with us right now. How are you, Carly?
I am great. How are you doing?
Doing well. So, is there social distancing in Republic of Ireland right now?
There is, yeah. Like overall, we're doing pretty well as far as the number of cases and everything like that. But social distancing definitely in place. I'm very lucky because I have a fantastic view out of my window and we have nice little walks around the water and things. So like, I feel very lucky, you know.
Well, okay. So, I'll get into more of this as the show progresses, but I will want to ask you about your performance now. And are you able to go out? Can you, do you have to have only an audience of a small audience or something? Or, well, go ahead and answer that now. I mean, I broached the subject. Can you perform live is what I'm asking.
No, there's really been none of that. At least in the city where I'm in the west of Ireland, in a kind of small city called Galway. And there really hasn't been anything like that. So I think like the rest of the world, there's been a lot of virtual performances and that's kind of been it. I work for an arts festival as well. And so we'd put on a bunch of small and large gigs. And pretty much what we've done, like a lot of other festivals, is take our 2020 year and make it our 2021 year, as far as all the bands that have agreed to perform and all that. So everything's just kind of being pushed back.
So are you saying that that festival did not come about and it's moved to next year?
Pretty much. Like we're trying to do an iteration of it in the autumn if we can. Who knows what's going to be happening, what the world's going to look like in September. So we're hoping to do something. But like the big acts, that we have, then we do next year in July.
Does the ocean breeze come in cold in Galway?
It does, yeah. It's normally really cold and rainy here. We've had a great summer though, to be honest. So there's so much that I cannot complain about. It's been really nice.
Good. That's great to hear. Hey, and so I appreciate you being on Beyond Punk with me. And I asked you to curate this show, and that, so you put together the playlist. Yeah. Tell me, okay, and I definitely we're gonna touch on all things. I'm very fascinated about your history in Dallas, but you chose an Eagles song. When you're a Texan, does this song mean something more to you? Do you think, Desperado?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I chose that song is I think it's my first musical memory. Like I have a memory of my dad driving me to school, elementary school, and this song playing on the radio. And he's a really great singer himself and really into music. And so I have a memory of him, singing the harmony to the chorus and really kind of knowing what harmony was from that song. And even just the word desperado is really Texan, isn't it? Seems like it. So I don't even know if I could define it now. But in my mind, that's what desperado is. Definitely a Texan. And so that song is super meaningful for me.
And what city in Texas are you referring to when he would drive you to school?
I grew up in Mesquite.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
right here in Dallas. That's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was a time on traditional radio in Texas when every other song had to be the Eagles.
I mean, I think it was the law, actually. Yeah.
But of course, this song is known all over, and you could hear people, if it came on the jukebox, people would sing this in Galway.
Totally, yeah.
All right, so we're going to segue now to the Carly Z. And all right, so let's be clear to everyone. They can go on Bandcamp right now and find Carly Z, as in Zimmerman, and right.
That's it.
And find your music, and your brand new album is called The Work.
It is, yeah.
What? Okay, when I first saw that, I thought the title was a little bit odd, but explain it to me. Why did you choose that?
Yeah, I get that a lot. People don't really understand what the title is, but it's super meaningful to me because I used to date a guy when I was living in New Orleans who would always talk about this concept of doing the work. And he kind of explained it like he would have had a lot of kind of a traumatic past and a lot of things that he had to work through. And to an extent, I think all of us do. We have things that we have to work through in our lives. And he really was one of the catalysts for me to kind of look into my life. And it's been super important for my creativity and, quote, do the work, see what it is that's causing you to act a certain way, to think a certain way, what your conditioning is, and see if you can strive to be a better person and be the person that you want to be and do the things that you want to do. And I think for anybody, no matter what their past, it requires them to do the work. And really the album for me is the manifestation of the work that I've done. And it also is the work, making it was a huge part of discovering who I am as a person and as an artist.
Aren't our lives defined by the most difficult moments?
Totally. And if you take, I think you take the opportunity to sit with the difficulty and learn from those moments, it's like that's what makes you who you are. And that's what I think about in these moments like we're having in the world and in America is what an opportunity. There's so much to be said for how difficult it is, but oh my God, I'm excited to see what kind of art develops out of this time and what people kind of learn about themselves through this time.
Agreed. I purchased the album yesterday on Bandcamp, and then you sent
You did. Thank you.
Yes, thank you you followed up with a personal note saying thanks, and I'm going to donate money to New Orleans. The New Orleans. Tell me.
Yeah, the Innocence Project.
Great. Okay. And
yeah.
So you had mentioned New Orleans. Tell me about your connection there and how meaningful that was for you.
Oh, it's funny because I moved there. I went to college in Baton Rouge, so about an hour away from New Orleans, and kind of found myself there a lot. Didn't really like it. It's loud, it's dirty, it's just a lot. And then I found myself moving there, and I just fell in love with it. That's what I needed at that time in my life. And I consider New Orleans my spiritual home. I consider it the place almost like where I belong, which is not to say, I'm in Ireland now. I knew I had to move out to develop into the person I want to be and chase these certain opportunities. But that doesn't mean, that New Orleans still isn't the place that I almost feel rooted. You know what I mean?
Yes. Fantastic. And are you involved with the Innocence Project?
I donate to them, monthly, because I think their mission is so fantastic. So the Innocence Project is a national organization, but they have chapters, and they advocate for criminal justice, and particularly this disproportionately affects people of color, and it's the innocence of people who have been in jail, who've been convicted of crimes absent usually from DNA evidence. And so these people can be in jail for 30 or 40 years, never having any evidence that they actually committed a crime. So it's basically, this organization is like a team of amazing lawyers who go and represent these people and advocate. And I was reading a story the other day where once finally a judge looked at a case of this man who'd been in prison for like 32 years, it took something like 8 minutes for the DNA evidence to be processed and him to be released. Like, it's just you can talk forever about how the justice system needs to be reformed, but I think the work that they're doing is so important. And it's this idea for me of freedom. I cannot imagine myself being contained like that. I mean, especially if you're innocent, but regardless, because freedom is so important to me, to move around and to be creative and all of that. And I think actually we're all feeling a lot of that right now, this kind of containment. Obviously you can't compare the two, but we're kind of learning about what it feels like not to be able to move anywhere, and how important it is to expand our minds and be free and creative. So it's a super important thing for me, the Innocence Project.
Oh, agreed. And fantastic that you're making donations from your record, from people who purchase from you. You'll make a donation to New Orleans Innocence Project, which that makes me want to buy more from you. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm really lucky to have a job. And I can talk about this later when we talk about creative process, because this is something I'm really passionate about as well. But I have, a day job that I love, and I make music as well. So for me, it's all a part of our living, but it means that I get to support my own music, but I don't need. The author Liz Gilbert has this amazing quote. It's something like, I promised my creativity I would never burden it with making us a living. And so I really feel that, I don't work well when I'm under the pressure of having, to make money for my creativity. So if I'm able to make any money from my passion project, then I think it should go to support other people's freedom and
I
creativity
hear
for the
you.
most
I
part,
hear you. And here in America, we hear about these cases frequently.
Yeah,
Frequently, quite a few each year, that the Innocence Project has stepped up, determined that someone was innocent. And it's just
yeah,
shocking that they spent decades in prison. And that
yeah.
that leads to another point. I mean, what kind of courage and strength did that person have to persevere that long, right?
I truly can't even imagine. I was just talking to one of my housemates the other day and saying, like, could could I survive? Do you think you could survive? Could we have done that? We were talking about particularly Innocence Project New Orleans. There was a case in New Orleans where this man just got freed a few years ago, but he spent I think it was 40 years in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement. Like, I don't know how you emerge from that as a human, but he did. And like, that's the most amazing testament to being a human that I can think of.
Yes, indeed. And, and further, it addresses the racial question that America
Absolutely.
is maybe finally trying to reckon with.
Yeah, I hope we are. And actually some of the songs on my list here speak to that, because that's been something I've been really, really passionate on, angered by for a while now. And I hope we're in a moment where things change. I hope we are.
Yes, indeed. There could be a turning point.
Right, right.
The next song is by John Mayer. Would you tell us, please, the title and also the meaning this song has to you, Carly?
Totally. It's a great segue, actually, because this song is called Belief. It was on his Continuum album from, I think it's 2006. So I remember listening to it when I was a teenager. And this song, I think, is the one that got me into lyrics in particular. And my album is all, the lyrical content is the message, is the music, is the thing for me. And this song, I'd never thought about this before, but he says, like, just to quote some of it, I mean, you'll hear it, but, belief is a beautiful armor, but it makes for the heaviest sword. Like punching underwater, you never can hit who you're trying for. Everyone believes in how they think it ought to be, but no one's going quietly. And I think in this age, when especially right now, we're in this crazy time where, at least on my particular echo chamber of Facebook and Instagram, this is all I see, right? Is talk about all of the protests that are going on and all the racial strife in the country, and people are shouting into the void. And in some ways, that's good, but I think I wonder what happens after this, when we're, and what the outcome is when we are shouting into the void all of our beliefs. I was talking to my sister yesterday, and she was saying, this is interesting in this time. How do we make sure that we change people's hearts? So not even just, using our protests and our voices to change laws and policies, but the people who are clearly not on board right now, how do we change their hearts? And I was kind of saying to her, I brought up this song, and I said, like, I don't think it's going to be talking to people about our political ideas and beliefs and shouting them down. There's something in people that makes them believe the way that they do, and it's rooted in their conditioning, and it's rooted in their trauma, and it's rooted in their humanity. So I don't think we can get to those people without getting to the heart of what is inside of them. Like if they do not think that, if they think that Black people are inferior to them, that has nothing to do with Black people, right? That has everything to do with the person who thinks that. And there's something in their hearts that needs to be changed. And it's not until that really inner chamber of themselves is affected that we see real change in the world. Now, I don't know how to do that. I don't know, but I think John Mayer's words in the song Belief speak to that kind of impossibility of shouting about what we believe and thinking that's going to change the world, because there needs to be more, and it's going to take time, so much time, and it's going to take the work, right? It's going to take the work in all of us. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And we'll never get to perfection, but we must take steps that direction every day to get as close as we can.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is John Mayer. This is DJ Crash. We're back with Carly Z, and that was John Mayer. Carly, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate your perspective on things and your view of your open, large view of the world, and recognition that this struggle right now is important,
right?
And it's long term. It is long term,
yes.
And we just have to keep pushing.
100%, yeah. Within ourselves, right, and within society.
Yes, well put. The next song you have up is your own, Carly Z, and it's Ideology from the album The Work, right?
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I was listening to some of your songs last night, and maybe it was this one, and I felt like it was kind of moving all over. I was trying to grasp it. I think it was this song. So please tell me a little about Ideology and the song and the meaning and the lyrics.
Yeah. So as I said before, lyrics to me are just paramount. I think because that's what catches me most in a song. This song really is about the inefficiency and the ineffectiveness of ideology generally. Again, like it's kind of like belief, like the John Mayer song we just heard. Ideology is binary usually, and it serves to sequester us in our little echo chambers, and it does not encourage us to think outside of that, when really the beauty of life lies outside the binary, so, and I think it goes deeper than even maybe what I can articulate here. Like in my song Ideology, it starts off, war, what is it good for? Peace, when will it be? But why do these have to be the only options for me? And it might sound weird to say, well, obviously you should be able to choose between war and peace. One is good and one is bad. I actually don't believe that necessarily as an absolute, because I think war and peace exist within all of us, and it's something that we need to reckon with. And we don't have just good and just bad, just war and just peace. I don't think we can ever purify ourselves and just be peaceful, and I don't ever think that should be the goal. So I think multiple things can be true at the same time within us and in the world and the universe, and it's so hard to get our heads around, right? That we don't have to go down the route of ideology, religious, political, whatever. Multiple things can be true at the same time, and we can hold that within ourselves even if we don't understand it, and we can just submit to the fact that might be beautiful, might not be understandable, but that really is the essence of life, I think, is taking in all of these different influences and ideas, not succumbing necessarily to an ideology, but just holding all of those beautiful contradictions within ourselves and seeing what comes of that.
And recognizing that others aren't necessarily holding the same ones you are, or maybe not quite as tight on certain ones.
Yeah, and they have their own reasons to be doing that,
Valid reasons.
And they're not.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's so difficult for us to understand what those are, because our experiences are so different, but it doesn't invalidate what their experience is if you've never had it or you don't understand it,
Well, let's try and change some hearts right now, Carly Z, like your sister said. And this is your song, Ideology.
The only options for me. Creed and drug of conceit. Doubt, just a different devout. But why are these prisons indeed the only options for me? I can see I'm alive. Darling, can't seem to forget. But why is ideology the only option for me? Oh yeah, yeah.
Hey, we're back with Carly Z on DJ Crash. This is Deep Ellum Radio, and just an enlightening and wonderful discussion, Carly. My show's called Conversations with Creatives, and you had a song on your list that's coming up, and it's Strange Fruit. Was this the most powerful song ever written?
It's a great question. I think anybody who hears this song for the first time, it's not a song that you can listen to and be doing other things. It's not a song that, like, you have to take in the whole song. You have to sit and close your eyes and be with this song. Lyrically, like as you said, I don't think I know a more powerful song than this. And specifically this version that I chose is by Billie Holiday. The way that she sings it is transcendent. It's something I shouldn't even pretend to be able to articulate why it's powerful, because it just is. But the way she sings it and the lyrics and the music behind it all serves to put you in this period in time when Black people in America were being lynched, and it's juxtaposed with this idea of the bodies being fruit on a tree. And we think of fruit on a tree as like pastoral, right? And like beautifully American, like apple trees or something like that. And the crazy thing is, right, lynching is also so American. It's this amazing contrast, and really like what I was talking about before with ideology, it's like all of these things are Americanness. This pastoral idea, this horrendous murder of our own people, it's all Americanness. And I can't even say enough, like we'll just have to play it really, but I just can't say enough about the words and how evocative this song is. And I think this song really was the one that gave me over to the power of music. Do you know, it's the power of music right here.
Was Billie Holiday, now when Billie Holiday and Nina Simone sang this in clubs, didn't they try and sneak it in and not, you know, and sometimes sometimes the club owners would recognize the song and sometimes they wouldn't, or you know, is that the history behind it?
Yeah, from what I know, they were banned from performing this song, which is how you know it needs to be sung in any music, in any art. That's how you know it needs to happen, and people need to hear it. So they were brave enough to bring that song because they knew what it meant, and they knew that people needed to hear that.
Yes. We've got a song on the list by Kendrick Lamar,
Mm-hmm.
and that you chose. So tell me the power behind this one for you. It's You by Kendrick Lamar.
This one, I still don't think I have ever heard a song that's more honest than this song. What I love, I love a million things about Kendrick Lamar, but what I love so much is um, he's not pretending that he has one self. This is Kendrick. This is my message, really. Like, if you listen to his albums, he has like 100 different selves, and he does it in these different voices, right? And he'll tell you like when he's morphing into a different self, and he has all these different ideas based on the different selves that he's becoming. But that's us. Like, we all have those different selves in us. He's just telling the truth about it. And on this track particularly, it is so emotionally honest. He cries on this track, and I think that's unbelievable for someone who we have been primed to expect to be hyper masculine, right? And he is on certain things because he has been primed as well by his conditioning to be hyper masculine. So you'll hear that a lot on Kendrick Lamar stuff. But then this one is like, no, that is not the only side of me. You know, it's basically like, I think of it as kind of his subconscious coming out, and saying what it needs to say. And all of these emotions that he has come to the surface in this song. And it's what exists almost behind the Kendrick Lamar that so many people want to see. It's so honest. And my jaw's on the floor every time I hear this song. And I think we need that artistic, emotional honesty more.
We need emotion, honest emotion.
Absolutely.
You know, from artists.
Absolutely.
and from all right now.
Yeah, and he doesn't make a judgment about that emotion before he puts it out. I think that's what's incredible to me. He doesn't curate it, really. He obviously, it's so lyrically powerful. He's obviously written it and thought about it, but it's just from this place that's beyond curation.
Any powerful, in my opinion, any powerful emotion from another connects me to that person.
Absolutely.
It's emotion. Absolutely. that binds us as humans.
Yeah, and everything in our world sometimes seems curated, and set to fit some kind of way that we're supposed to live. And then when you hear something like this, it's like, oh no, like that's the way to live. That's the truth,
We want to encourage everyone to go to your Bandcamp and find your album, The Work. And it's just under Carly, and then the letter Z.
Mm-hmm.
And where else should fans find updates, news, info on you?
Yeah, I have all the usual suspects. I have my Facebook page is probably where I update the most, which is just Carly Z. I think it's facebook.com/Carly the Artist. And then I am on Instagram at Carly A2Z. So that's A, the number 2Z. And I have my website as well, carlyA2Z.com.
Okay. And can you order product on your website?
You can through the contact form at the moment. So from my website right now, I'm linking to, Bandcamp and other places where you can download it. Yeah. But just contact me, through that form. And I have some first edition, limited edition CDs with me at the moment. I'm happy to ship them out to people.
Yeah, cool, cool. Well, I see the world map behind you, so yeah, you might be shipping across that globe.
Totally, yeah.
The song we have up next is yours, "Pedagogy of the Oppressed." So, let's talk about the creative process, though, before we jump into the meaning of that song. You mentioned that out your window you have a beautiful view. You mentioned that during the day you have a regular job. You mentioned that you get inspiration from emotional artists like Billie Holiday, Kendrick Lamar, John Mayer. But are you at work in the middle of the day sometimes and it strikes you, a song lyric or a song structure or form, hits you, and you have to like take a break and write it down, or I'm very fascinated by how that spark begins.
Sometimes I am, but I have struggled with the creative process for a long time. So just to take you back a little bit, I would have been musical, throughout my childhood and all that, and then gone to college for a music degree. But then after that, I felt like it was a very exclusionary kind of world, and I went to kind of a conservatory like music school, and I never felt like I belonged there. I felt like there was this expectation that you had to sing opera and know classical theory, and if you didn't, then what are you even making music for? And so I was very lost after that, and I didn't make music. And I think there's something to be said for when you have experiences like that, you kind of, a lot of us tend to turn off that creative part of our brains. Like it's like too painful to bear. Like maybe there are some super kind of creative, sensitive souls who are like, I think Tom Waits is one of these people. He says, like, he's driving in his car or something, and he'll hear a song and he'll be like, "Can't you see I'm driving here?" Like I think that's amazing. That's not how I do it at all. I get really kind of bogged down in the world a lot, and that particular moment in my life, that huge span of years in my life where I turned it off. I felt like I couldn't make music, and so again, Liz Gilbert, the author, she's a great kind of speaker on creativity, and she writes about creativity a lot. But her theory is that there's ideas that kind of come to creative people, and they kind of choose you, and they're vessels for their message. You're a vessel for their message. And so her thing is, if you're not primed and ready for that, it's not going to come to you because it knows you're not a willing host, essentially.
Yeah.
So it took me a long, long time. One of the catalysts was the workbook called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Changed my entire life, convinced me that I am an artist, I could do it. And very slowly, those kind of ideas started kind of coming back. And but still, it goes in kind of macro phases for me. So I do find it hard to have a day job and a creative practice at the same time. This album was written on a break from jobs. So like when I was waiting for my visa to come here to Ireland, I didn't know how long it was going to take. So I had to move in, with my mom. That you can't be in the country in Ireland. So I had to move in with her, and it took 4 months. And I wrote the album essentially in those 4 months. And my mom was like, "Don't you want to get a job?" I was like, "No," because this, I think, is like, this is how it happens. I think this is the only way that ideas can come to me, if I give them the time and the energy. So that was a huge time when creativity was really rapid fire in my life. But then I started working, I started getting really into my job, which is a whole nother part of my life that is creative, by the way. People we have this whole mythology of artistry that you can't be creative in anything else but making music or making visual art or whatever, which is totally ridiculous. You can be creative in any aspect of your life. So I get, my creative energy goes into my job, and I don't make music for a long time. Or like the past few years, I've been making this album in more of a production kind of way. I'm not having I'm not writing songs necessarily, but just fine tuning and producing with my producer. I find myself kind of getting back into a stage where I think maybe this is more of a songwriting kind of phase, but truly it's macro. And I'm not, what people think of as an artist in terms of being actively creative all the time. I'm not like that every day. It truly does come in phases.
But but do you ever get little snippets of a song idea, lyric idea, and then you think to yourself, that's similar to something from last week, and then you think, well, that's similar to something I was thinking from last month, and it's the creative gods. We're trying to connect all those dots for you along the way.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And yeah, I feel like everything is connected. When I'm writing, I can kind of look back, especially if it's lyrics that I'm writing, and think and look at all the influences that I've had and how that has come to be throughout my life. I should say also, like, I'm fascinated as you are with this whole creative process thing. So on my Facebook right now, I'm doing a companion series, a companion stories series where I'm writing essays for each of the songs on the album and explaining what the creative process was behind them. And I'm doing exactly this, right? Yeah, I'm tracing the ideas for the snippets and things that I heard and how it formed into a song and what influenced that from way back in my life,
Wow, fantastic. I'm reading the autobiography of Dario Argento, the Italian horror movie director, and he said when he would write a script for a film, he would lock himself up in a hotel room with no one around, nothing, no one, no contact whatsoever. And he knew that it was good if he himself became extremely frightened. And he gave an example once of writing this script, and he became so frightened he had to leave his room and walk downstairs and ask the maintenance man to had to make some excuse to have someone come back up to the room with him.
Wow.
He was so frightened with the creation that he had made for that screenplay.
That's amazing.
So tell me again the title of this song and what does it mean?
We're on Pedagogy of the Oppressed, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So Pedagogy of the Oppressed is this idea that was created by this Brazilian educator named Paulo Freire. And he basically, he was talking about education in particular. And he said, what happens in education is that the teachers assume themselves these authoritative wells of knowledge, and then they impart this to their empty vessels of students, and it's this passive way of learning. And what he says is like, that's kind of how oppression is perpetuated in a lot of ways, is like, we think we are the arbiters of, truth and knowledge. And then, sometimes we can assume that everybody else doesn't know, and then we don't allow people to participate in their own knowledge making. I think there's a really interesting misconception about knowledge, is that you receive it, when actually anyone who is creative and who makes music or writes or whatever knows that you learn by your brain processes all the inputs and the knowledges that you do receive. But once you actually write the thing, once you start making the song, painting the painting, that is the other part of knowledge and meaning. And you learn when you're doing that. It's learning by expression. It's a hard thing to really talk about when you haven't experienced it, but I think a lot of people who are involved in anything creative know exactly what I'm talking about. So there was a guy named Augusto Boal who was a theater professional, and he took this idea of the pedagogy of the oppressed, and he said, you know what's happening in the classroom is totally what's happening in the theater as well. Audiences come in, right? There are actors and creatives who have made this work. They've done the work, right? But then the audience, it might be a social play, a really important play that's saying something crucial. But then the audience gets to come in, sit there for an hour and a half in the air conditioning, say, oh my God, wasn't that just stirring, and then leave. And then so what's the point there? Like, was their life actually changed? They just sat passively in a theater for an hour and a half. So what he did was make the actors and the creatives and the audience they co-created the show together. He formed this whole kind of methodology about theater where oppression is actually understood when people experience it in a way. So people created their own knowledge in the theater, audiences and actors together. So pedagogy of the oppressed to me is like it's part and parcel of this idea of being active and really understanding what oppression looks like.
And participation from the student.
Yeah, exactly. And this song as well, you know, I started writing right after Trump was elected. You'll notice when you hear the song, it's kind of like the ego is represented by the verses, and then the chorus is kind of the subconscious coming out and saying what the ego was saying, but in an honest way, saying like, this is actually what I mean. You know, and I thought about it in terms of Trump and the kind of oppression that he perpetuates. But then I thought like, oh no, this is wider than that. Like, I think there's a lot of like corporate greed and stuff. Definitely like, you know, people are perpetuating oppression. It's a much larger thing than him. And then I was like, oh no, it's me as well. And it's everybody. We all kind of participate in this, again, kind of perpetuation of oppression in our own ways if we're just being passive, do you know?
Could it be said that there is a connection between the brain and the hand, and that for example, in this, what you're describing, when a student then is participating in, and they're not just learning it here, they're writing it out or creating poetry or you know, even just a paper, you know, something that connects then to the world, because it goes from the head to the hand.
Yeah. And back into the head. Like, I think it's a whole process, it's a whole loop that we all participate in. Like, and even when people are like in class and taking notes, you know, even when you take notes, you retain things like slightly better than if you didn't take notes at all. So then, you know, then if you choose to process it and create something else out of your notes, create a song, create whatever. Yeah. And then you, like you say, put it out in the world, and you have other people listening to it. That's something they receive. They take their notes, they make their art, and it becomes this huge process of humanity.
Yes. And train yourself that when it goes from the head to the hand, it must pass through the heart. And that emotion has to be there. For that message to be powerful coming out of your hands, it has to come through the heart.
And you know what that takes is just doing it. Like, it's so difficult to sit down like the first time and be like, okay, I have to make this come from the heart, right? And it can be a lot of pressure to do that, but we learn by doing. Like, I know I'm saying this a lot, but it's just so important, and it's something that I didn't learn for a long time. Like, creatives can agonize over their creativity and over their work, but like, just, it's gonna be terrible like for a while.
At first. Yes.
Yeah, but you just do it and you learn honesty. Like, we live in a world that doesn't prioritize honesty a lot. So you have to kind of learn it. You have to sit with your own honesty for a long time before it actually comes out in your work a lot of times. You know, there might be luckier people than me, but that's been my experience.
This is an enlightening story. And can I bring up the Sex Pistols?
Do, of course.
So, you know, when they first came out, it was raw emotion, energy, anger, and they didn't know how to play their instruments very well, but that feeling was there. And then they reformed for their Filthy Lucre tour in early 90s, whenever that, I think it was, and they could play their instruments very well. And they realized then that it felt different. It felt different. They were very skilled at that point, you know. And so the point is, just create. And at first it may have a lot of emotion but lack technical expertise, you know, but so what? Get the message out. And there are so many artists I follow as well that preach this. Just go ahead and do it and recognize it may be a very rough cut at first.
Yeah, there's an amazing clip of Ira Glass, the public radio host, who talks about what he calls the gap, which is when you're kind of starting out as an artist, you're an artist because you have good taste, what you want your art to be. But when you start making art, there's this gap between what you're creating and what is it should be, in a way, like what it could be, what you want to create, and you're not at that level. And he says that's where so many artists quit, because they assume that what they're making at the beginning could never be that. And what they don't realize is where they're at right now is the most necessary part of getting across the gap and getting to the place where your art matches what it can be and the quality that you want it to be. Just keep going through that gap. Yeah. And don't quit, And I will say, I'm 31 now, which in like music industry years is like 83. But what I realize is the people who are successful in anything are literally just the people who did not quit. Mm-hmm. They are not the most talented. They are not, these people who were geniuses at age 12. Like, I cannot stress this enough. It is literally, when you're here out of your 20s, it's like, first of all, thank God. Second of all, wow, these are the people who just kept going no matter what, Nicely put. You have to, I hear what you're saying is that you have to work these creative muscles. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I could talk about this for like days, so go ahead. Well, I have plenty of tape, so we're just going to do that. Great. This is Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Take care of the rest. Give me a country, a room with you. Give me a world that owes me what I'm due. Give me the moon and I'll force in my flag. But give space to think and I'll give it right back. Oh, please, I need to feel great. I need to make profit from somebody's pain. 'Cause if love ain't the horse that will bear me away, then let him cower with the power that's holding the reins. I need you to be there so that I can be more. For you to drown in the ocean so I can savor the shore. 'Cause if you ain't the target for all of my fear, I'll have to admit I don't know what I'm doing here. Give me a church and I'll pray for the lost. Get me elected no matter the cost. Give me cocaine and I'll sing like a bird. Give me a medal, I'll show you my worth. Give me a badge and give me a gun. Give me a slave or give me a son. Give me a stage and watch me play the part. Give me love and watch me break his heart. Oh, please, I need it. I need to feel great. I need to make profit from somebody's pain. 'Cause if love ain't the horse that will bear me away, then let him cower with the power that's holding the reins. I need you to be there so that I can be more. For you to drown in the ocean so I can
savor the shore. Because if you ain't the target for all my fear, I'll have to admit I don't know what I'm doing
This is DJ Crash. I'm back with Carly Z, talking to us from Galway. Thank you for being here from across the ocean today.
So happy. Thank you very much.
And, you know, if you ever get back to Dallas or even New Orleans, which is close, you know, please give me a heads up. And,
Totally.
you know, maybe we can talk while on American shores or if I head over across the pond, you know.
Oh yeah, like I could talk about creativity and music and all of that and humanity for like days on end. So don't tempt me, but like it's yeah, it could happen.
Well, I think right now it's needed more than ever. We please, everyone, show the poetry you have in your body. Show it.
Yeah.
There's poetry in there. Bring it out and just show it. And look, it may be rusty at first if you're not used to doing that, but show the art, humanity, poetry you have in you right now.
Yeah, and understand that like if it gets criticism, you know, people have their own reasons for everything, right? So like, you know, if you're just starting out, I think it's difficult when you do push your poetry out or your music out or whatever, and you get criticism, especially from people who like don't know what they're talking about really. Like you can still take it really personally. And so again, it's just that idea of pushing through that, you know, don't worry about that. If criticism happens, like that usually has nothing to do with you. Do you know what I mean?
Great life lessons today from Carly Z. Hey, now I know that New Orleans is maybe not your second home, maybe it's your third home, but all right, so we've got Harry Connick queued up.
Oh
and
yeah.
Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? I mean, how emotional is that title?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's something we say, like those of us who have emigrated from New Orleans, you know, we just tell each other, I know what it means. I know what it means, you know, and then we all know what that means, which is, you know, we miss New Orleans like something like we can't even describe, you know. Like I remember the night leaving New Orleans, and I was walking around the French Quarter, and I went to Preservation Hall, which is, you know, if you've ever been to New Orleans, like you have to go to Preservation Hall. It's this really super old kind of building in the French Quarter where there's this amazing band, and they play all this kind of old New Orleans jazz. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I was just like, I have to go to Preservation Hall one more time. And I was so teary and everything. And I got up to the door, and the woman was like, I'm sorry, we're sold out. And I just inadvertently started crying. I was like, we don't understand. I'm leaving New Orleans, and I have to, you know, feel this kind of New Orleans spirit one more time. And she let me in, and it was amazing. I was just standing at the back and just taking that indescribable thing about New Orleans. I love the city so much.
Did you continue crying when you were inside?
Oh, like a fountain of tears. Yeah, like it's so emotional for me. It's like it probably will take my lifetime to figure out like why exactly that is. But the funny thing is, I'm far from the only person to say that about New Orleans. There are so many people who have felt what I feel about that city. Like there's some crazy connection there. There's some different way of life there. It's hard to describe. So take a trip to New Orleans, everyone, if you can. I
call it the psychic seance. It's that's how.
Oh God, yeah.
That's what it is. You're always there in that seance of that city. Hey, Carly Z, thank you for being with us. Yes, that was the tearjerker. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? All right, so we got a couple more songs on this wonderful playlist that you put together. Thank you. This is your show, Carly.
Cool.
This is your show. This is the Carly show, and we should do it like frequently. We should have a regular.
I am so down with that. Let's do it.
Now, I don't know anything about Dayme. Would you tell me a little about? Am I saying the name right?
Dayme.
Dayme.
Yeah, yeah. I think now. See, I'm not a Spanish speaker myself, so that would be my probably Americanized pronunciation of it.
Arocena. Yeah.
Yeah, I say Dayme Arocena. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
hoping that it's not too butchered there. But yeah, so she is kind of a little known artist. She is from Cuba. um, I first heard about her. There was a write up on, like, I think it was an Austin City Limits or South by Southwest showcase that she did, and the writer was just kind of effusive about her and just said, she's amazing. Um, I connect to this song because I went to Cuba in 2014 for a few weeks, and it's it's like I feel like at a loss for words to describe the meaning of this whole experience for me, but it was it's a beautiful country and a beautiful place to be. But I think it was really also the first time that I confronted politics. Like, as a white person in America, I think you can get by, well, probably before maybe this particular period. You can get by without really ever confronting politics because, a lot of it works for you. So I think I was quite naive and went to Cuba and then was like, oh, and this is when Fidel Castro was still alive. And um, it was a huge kind of turning point in just the way that I thought about things. And she comes out of Cuba, like one of the only artists who was kind of allowed to leave, really. And this song has so many, first of all, so many cool sounds and elements that she put together to make this song that are percussive, and the whole thing to me is like an incantation. So she's in the religion of Santeria, and so this song is like it's an incantation, it's a meditation, and it's kind of like a worship song to her gods. And it's all in Spanish. And because it's in Spanish and I don't speak Spanish, to me, it's just kind of like, I can take it as, like, incantation is the word that keeps coming to my mind. It's like she keeps saying the names of her gods, and she sings in this just amazing kind of way. And I'm not even religious, but like I feel that when she sings it, again, as we keep talking about, it's the honesty in that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the need that you have to express yourself to the universe, and that's what I feel when I listen to this song. And Dayme is just an incredible musician.
This is a fantastic story. When you were in Cuba, was it just for, I mean, I guess I'm curious, was it for one
Yeah.
day or was it for many days?
It was for 2.5 weeks.
And is it easy for an American to go to Cuba, find a hotel, everything is cool?
It might be different now, but at that time, yeah, you weren't really allowed. I went through Cancun, and I'm not sure if that was okay or not, but I got there and got back. But yeah, so you can, like, basically there were like a lot of rules around it. Like, you could go if you had your educational purposes or religious purposes. There were like 12, I think, reasons that you were allowed to go there. So I had this kind of group that I was meeting up with who I'd never met before. Like, I went there on my own and then just kind of met up with this group that, we took Spanish classes and we did salsa dancing lessons, and, we would take day trips, and we would go to the beach, and we would go to these amazing clubs that, Cuba, because it's communist, you have these artists there, as you have everywhere, who feel contained in what they can say because they are, but then you go to some places and that art comes out, and that to me was so exciting because again, that's honesty. When these people can't say it in their daily lives, and then you go to I'll give a shout out to this amazing club, Fabrica, in Havana, that is kind of this hub for expats and for artists and kind of everybody in the know. It's the most avant-garde place I've ever been, but it's just this place where artists know that they can express themselves. Loved it there. So beautiful.
Well, speaking of expats and patriots, and if you're in America, can you look across the room and tell that person is Irish?
If I'm in America.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question. It's definitely different. Like it's so difficult to articulate like the differences, but I don't know if I could actually.
Carly, if let's say after the danger passes,
Yeah.
if someone is walking around Galway, would they be able to hear wonderful music every night coming from every club and every pub and every stage and every street corner?
Mm. Yeah, Galway is super creative, and that's what it's kind of known for in Ireland, as being the kind of artsy, musicy capital of Ireland in a way. So there's all kinds of, in normal circumstances, there's all kind of buskers and these kind of, you know, trad music is the traditional Irish music, and you'll hear that coming out of a lot of different places. Also more contemporary music as well. It is that kind of place. You'll definitely hear music everywhere.
And so I love this band called the Saw Doctors. Are they from Galway?
Yeah.
Are they from Galway?
Are they yeah, I actually work with some people who used to be in the Saw Doctors, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
You tell them they have a fan in Dallas.
I will, absolutely.
All right. So this is Dayme from Cuba, and the song is Madres. I love any song that is about Santeria or someone's, you know, it makes it a spiritual song, even though it's not a religious song.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
What we have up next is Hozier, and so we're coming back to the work theme.
Yeah.
I imagine this one maybe has had an influence on you as well, as it's called Work Song.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of those songs, the vibe of it is one of those songs that it kind of forces you to listen. It forces you to slow down. I love that kind of song where it's very simple. And it's rooted firmly in the blues, which at its core, like musically is quite simple. And there's something so magnetic about that. I actually chose this song because Hozier as an artist has had a really big impact on me. I have a great story actually. When I was in New Orleans and he was playing Jazz Fest, I didn't know he was playing Jazz Fest, but I went to this bar on a Saturday night because my friend was in town. I was at this weird point in my life where I wasn't really going out and doing much, and this friend came in and she was like, "Oh, we have to go, you know, I really want to go experience New Orleans on this Saturday night." So we did, and I looked over in the corner and Hozier was sitting there with his band. And what was weird is this whole club was completely packed full of people and nobody recognized him. And this was the height of his fame. Like, you know, Take Me to Church was like #1 or something on the Billboard chart. And I thought it was so weird, but I was like, I know that's him. I wonder, you know, if I could talk to him. I don't want to be that kind of person, you know, who goes up and like inserts themselves into the conversation. But he eventually got up and was walking right by me, and I just said, "Hey, I'm really a fan of your music." And we had this amazingly like basic, simple conversation for like 5 minutes, which is a long time to talk to a celebrity, you know. And I think what I realized talking to him was like, this maybe sounds really stupid, like saying it out loud, but the knowledge was like, oh, he's a celebrity, but he's like a human. Like we think of celebrities as these kind of untouchable, like ideals, you know, and they have this existence that's totally separate from our existence. But what I kind of realized in that moment was like, oh no, we're the exact same, me and him. We're the exact same. And at that time, I was still not doing music. I was in that weird period of my life where I'd shut off all the creativity. And it was such a almost spiritual experience in the way that the knowledge kind of came down to me of that, of like, if he's a human and he's making music at this level, I'm a human. I can be making music at that level as well.
Yeah.
And that was one of the huge catalysts for me of starting back in music. Just a chance meeting like that, you know. So it really, really inspired me to kind of have the whole celebrity bubble burst in a way, and seeing like that's totally like a farce and an ideal. It doesn't even really exist. We're all humans.
We're all
and
humans.
all of us creative.
That's a powerful point. And so thanks to Hozier for creating the spark and the springboard back in your life, right?
Totally, absolutely.
DJ Crash, we're back with Carly Z, and what we'll do right now is just kind of wrap up and sign off, and then we will take the show out with your song, The Void. And what tell me what The Void is, and what is it you're hoping for this song, because I know this is a premiere song. What is it you're hoping for this song?
Yeah, this song is the first song on my album, and it came from reading James Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time, which for me, I think what a lot of white people right now are experiencing with the murder of George Floyd, and that kind of switch that flips where you're like, oh, you go from your kind of protected reality to what's closer to what reality actually is, which is, the reality of race in America. That for me was years ago when I read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, what happens to the jailer when all of the prisoners are set free? He faces the void of himself. There are about 1 million other quotes from James Baldwin that have changed my life. I can't even, this is another topic I could spend, so long going on about, because he is so profound. But that idea that, when all else is taken away, and all the things that make you feel superior, and all the things that you do to achieve, and all the things you try to control and manage, when all that's taken away, you have to face whatever that is that you've not been facing, and that you've been using those other external things in your life to fill up. But that thing, that void, is always going to be there. And that is the void of yourself, and the things that that don't have words. The thing that is there, that connects you to all of humanity. But if you want to be, this goes back to what we were talking about before, if you want to be the person that you want to be, you have to look into that void. This song for me is just a reckoning with the void. Again, co-creating that knowledge, writing this song as an act was me trying to deal with the void. So it opens with a paraphrasing of James Baldwin's words. And then, gets a little more personal, and me figuring out what my particular void looks like, and then kind of opens up into, hey, what are we all doing with our own voids? Are you going to choose to do that? Are we going to make the world better by really looking into what seems really dangerous and uncomfortable? Can we do that? Let's do that.
That's a great message to, especially right now, and to kind of wrap up this show with, can I just bring up also that, do you have hope right now for an outspring, a wellspring of creativity, because of the fact that on this planet we have shared this plague, this tragedy, and after the Black Death came the Renaissance. After the Vietnam War came wonderful protest songs. My point is that sometimes art is created in plague, and hurt.
I think pain, like, we spend so much time not dealing with pain, and then when you're in a situation like this where you're forced to look at it, that's when you connect to the truth behind pain. Like, there's something so heavy about it, but there's something so honest about it as well. And I think, everything is a pendulum. Like, history is a huge pendulum where there are these stages of growth and enlightenment, and this reflects, you know, our personal lives as well. This happens throughout our lives. We have periods where it's great and it's going along, and then something happens, and then you just swing back and forth. Sometimes in history you have to really zoom out to see that. And we're just in one of those swings of the pendulum, you know, and we will keep swinging. We, in a way, we have to go with that, but it's totally the catalyst for creativity. You're absolutely right. You know, you can't have really art and creativity when everything is good and you're ignoring the void all the time. You know, you have to go into that place.
Your point is that it can be cathartic as well, and helpful. So, you know, let's end the show by saying, and we're going to play your song, but let's end the show by saying, hey, for everybody, you've got it in here, express it, let it out, and let it out on paper, or let it out by singing or painting, creating. But that's helpful, and that's therapeutic.
And you're not alone either. There's so many supports out there in the world, and there are so many people who have gone through so much. It's so easy to think we're alone, but we are so not. Everyone is connected, and there are so many reasons to go on, and there are so many ways to do that.
It has been such an uplift to share wavelengths with you today.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
You're very welcome. And you have roots in Dallas. We're glad to, be able to talk about your time in Dallas, your time in New Orleans, and now your life in Galway. And I would hope that one day in the future we cross paths, but let's stay in touch and maybe we can do another one of these.
That sounds great.
So I really appreciate you carving out time to spend with me today. I really do, Carly.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
And this is your song, The Void. I'll say so long. This has been DJ Crash on Beyond Punk and The Void, up next by Carly Z. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you.
To so many jailers when the prisoners all are set free? What happens to shepherds for saviors when gone are the penitent sheep? What happens to time-honored masters when they hear the chains rattle and fall? The shattered glasses of Bemis when nothing but time after all. Imagine these men for a moment, looking and finding no help, and for the first time in their lives, facing the void of themselves. In my bedroom, when all men have come and gone, with no one to tell me who I am, I realize I never have known. When I tire of calling myself victim, a coat I have worn like a skin, still none of the things that I yield to can heal the unyielding within. There are so many cures for this ailing, and hundreds of ways to stay dumb. Thousands of empty distractions, and millions of ways to be numb. It shows what we can't bear to see. And most of us patch up the rupture and take darkness its sharpest relief. The scare